And so, dear hearts, here we are on a Sunday. Again, comes around so quickly. And it's the last Sunday of the month of January when we kind of conclude our 4 weeks of basic fundamental principles of science of mind. And I'm knowing for everyone that everybody has been deepened this month because we really have made the endeavor to identify more with those principles and live in those principles, think from those principles, feel from those principles, and act from those principles. And if we do all of that, then our lives are blessed, they prosper, and all is well. And not only that, but we bless everyone else's life too. And all of life is raised up. And so Monica gave a very wonderful example of identifying with science of mind. Now, we know, and we don't have to be told, we've had years of study, many of us, and even for somebody walking through the door for the first time knows that knowing something is only the tiniest part of a process. The only way you truly can know something is to imbibe it, is to be saturated by the awareness of what it is, to invite it in, to invite its energy to move through us as we think, as we feel, as we do, as we speak. And that way we get to indeed be one with the process. And it's the process of life. You can use all kinds of words to describe it, but it's just life in its perfect flow. Life doing what life is meant to do. Expand and deepen and heighten and widen. So we can ask ourselves, well, what has this month of January done for me when it comes to this teaching? Have I grown in any way? Do I understand it more fully, more deeply? Am I ready to be able to say, I am one with the principle and the principle is one with me? And prove it. See, as Ernest Holmes says, this is something that you have to prove. It's not enough to know about it, but you have to prove its principle by means of you, in you and through you. And that's some, I tell you, that's some invitation. Prove me herewith. Now, the whole reason why we have spent so much time and energy, investment in the study and the participation in this great science is just to come home to ourselves. Do you know what that means? To come home to yourself. We're talking about self with a capital S. To come home to yourself. And in this wearing of this human body, to go out from yourself, then to come back into yourself. When you go out into the material world, which is a very dense world. And that's okay. It too is in a state of evolution. So how has the science served you since you were first introduced to it? Has it served you sufficiently? And if not, maybe that means we have to ask ourselves, are we just paying homage to the words? Are we just staying in that awareness of the teaching at a theoretical level? And Ernest Holmes says that the danger is that we spend too much time in theory and too little time in practice. Everything is about practice. It doesn't matter in life, out there, in the world. To get proficient at anything, you have to learn the skills and you have to practice the skills. And then eventually, one day, you're very competent in the skills, but nevertheless, you keep practicing. That's what all the great musicians say all the time. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. And the great musicians never stop practicing. Every day of their lives they practice. They don't take it for granted, oh, I've conquered that, I know that, and I'm good at that now. There's always the more. No matter how good you get at something, there's always a deeper opportunity to experience that in a bigger way. So where does these 4 weeks leave us as far as the principles of science of mind are concerned? Is it something we come into on Sunday and we hear all about it and we're reawakened into our delight that we know this science and so on, and then when we walk through the doors, do we forget about it until the next Sunday? Is it a living thing? Is it a living thing in your life? Is it that tickle that happens constantly in you? The reminder, okay, you have an opportunity here now to go to bits and pieces because of this situation that has cropped up. You can fall apart, etc. But on the other hand, you have an option. You can take yourself out of the morass of the outer exterior conditions of life and enter into your own pure, pristine state of wholeness, of being, and handle it there. How? By talking about it, by telling the pureness in us that, no, just by remembering that it is there and allow that presence to flood your mind, your body, your heart, your soul, and the body of your affairs. There's no need for any talk or chatter. There's no need for conversation. Why would you tell the divine what the divine already knows? Why wouldn't you rather sit in that presence and yum up on it and enjoy it and just be in awe and wonder at the idea of it all and that you have access? That's all we really have to do. How do we go about that? Well, the practice for us is, of course, to leave the theory, step down from the theory, the superficial theory, into the deeper meaning of that, to reduce it to its essence. And all the theory says is, you. If you could just pay attention, if you could just tune in, if you could just know this, you are a pinnacle of light and power. You have everything available to you that you could possibly need in order to move through this plane with grace and ease, in peace and joy, in health and well-being, in fullness and plenty, and in loving relationship with all. Yes, you, regardless of circumstances, regardless of what you may have brought in here that doesn't bode well with you, nevertheless, that's your superficial identity. But at the center core of your being, you are pristine light and crystal clear in the truth that sets us free. Is that worth spending some time contemplating in our day? Yes. One of us says yes. That's a start. And you don't have to start with long hours of anything. Start with a minute here or a minute there or 5 minutes and then move it into 10 minutes. Do it at your leisure and do it comfortably. Because if you don't, you're going to just be efforting and efforting. Oh, I got to push it. Okay, I'm nearly there. The 10 minutes is nearly up. I can do this for another 3 minutes. All right then. What's that noise? God as I am, God as I am, God as I am, God as I am. It's very funny when you think about it. It's hilarious. Just be where you are at any given time. If it's not working for you at the allotted 10 minutes you've given yourself, get up and do something useful and give yourself another 10 minutes in the day. I'm trying to make this as basic and as fundamental as possible. It's not a great ordeal. It's just you corralling your thoughts sufficiently to just focus on one thing. Now that sounds easy, but really, you all know when you try to focus on one thing what happens. But with practice, you get it. With practice, you get to the Carnegie Hall of inner light. With practice. Are you willing to practice, is my question for you today.
Yes.
Good. I heard you. And when do you think you're going to start with this willingness to practice? Now. Praise God and pass the mustard. This is great. You know, my dear ones, we make everything that is beautiful and glorious hard. We turn it into a chore. We make everything a chore. And it's only because we're not used to its routine. We don't want to disturb ourselves from our usual things. I don't have time. Can you imagine yourself saying in all sincerity and in all truth, I don't have 10 minutes a day to give to this? Where in the mother of goodness are all your 10 minutes going? What are you giving them to? Do you want to heal yourself? Do you want to bless yourself? Do you want to grow yourself? Do you want to wake up more in yourself? Do you want to be conscious more fully of yourself? Well, if you do, start with 10 minutes a day. Or 5 minutes a day, whatever it is you think you can do comfortably. As soon as you start efforting, stop it. Go and do something useful and don't waste your time. But keep coming back to it in the day until at least you can add up 10 minutes of really focused awareness and a connection with the presence. I'm telling you, this is be able to accomplish the steps. Don't force yourself and don't put more on your plate than you can cope with, or you will not succeed. But the whole idea is to make this fun. And as somebody said to me, whenever was religion fun? I said, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about your spiritual lessons. So what are you going to make up your mind about today? You're going to take on your own task of to thine own self be true. Man, woman, know thyself. And how are you going to do that? I mean, you can race around in the world looking for all kinds of solutions to all kinds of problems, all kinds of cures to all kinds of situations. Race around out there by all means, but I'm telling you, you get to that far more quickly if you just went within. If you just went into the inner sanctum of yourself. Trusted yourself. I'm wondering in truth how many people in this room trust themselves yet. Are you in your own corner? Are you there for yourself? Can you depend upon yourself? See, it all boils down to that. Because if you cannot do that for yourself, you're not going to be able to do it in any other way. You have to do it. This is a do-it-yourself thing. Now, we can have cheerleaders that will cheer us along and help us along, but you've got to do it yourself. And where do you start? Always and ever, only in the one place, in the way you think about yourself, in the way you think about life. Consequently, in the way you feel about yourself, in the way you feel about life. How you show up in life, who you are when you show up in life. Because, any given week, we can be all kinds of things with regard to the way we show up. One day we can show up as, Hilda the Hun. The next day we can be a Mother Teresa, and so forth. Who goes forth today? When you wake up in the day, you get up, you dress yourself, you have your breakfast and so on. Before you go out the door, ask yourself, who goes forth today? Who am I today as I go forth? Am I going out there as the warrior to get into war? Am I going out there as the peace pilgrim to bring as much peace as I can bring? Am I going out there as the volunteer to help wherever I can help? Am I going out there to have as much fun as I can for myself? Ask yourself every day before you go out the door, who goes forth by means of me today? Where am I? What do I bring to the world today? What have I got to put on the table of life today? You see, this is true spirituality. It's basic, fundamental, bread and butter stuff. It's basic, basic, basic. And then, when you get the basics down, great and glorious and amazing things happen. Great feasting happens when you get clear on the bread and butter stuff. You bring yourself to the world every single day. But the question is, which self are you bringing to the world every single day? The science tells us, bring the best of yourself to the world. The world deserves the best of yourself, and you deserve to be the best of yourself. And you all know what my mom used to say when it came to helping people who are in dire circumstances. She'd say, give them your very best. They don't want your leftovers, your hand-downs. They're feeling down enough without you adding to that by passing on your hand-me-downs. Bring your best, give your best, and do it with a good heart, and do it knowing for that person better days are ahead. Better days are ahead. Only the best is good enough. Why? Because God dwells in each and every one of us as God's own self. Are you going to treat God as a reject, as a less than? Oh, it doesn't matter. People may behave dastardly, and they do. And it's only because they are so bumped and bruised, they've forgotten all about who and what they are, if they ever really knew it in this lifetime. But see, you and I can help people to remember who they are. More than that, you and I need each other to help us to remember who we are. And if you're a real friend to anybody, remind them with the kindness and love of a friend that they are forgetting themselves. Many years ago, I've told you that before, a friend of mine once said to me, Moira, I don't think you're being yourself today. I'm not recognizing you today. Greatest lesson I ever learned. There was no reprimand, there was no chastisement, there was none of that. It's just reminding me, you're being less than you are. This is not the person I know. What's going on? And then there was no need for discussion after that. That was all that was said. Remember who you are. Remember what you represent. God so loved the world that God gave the world you. And God gave the world you by entering into you and remaining in you so God could be itself by means of you. Next time you're down on yourself, remember that. God so loved the world that God gave the world me as its own self, to represent its own self. Say it with me. God so loved the world that God gave the world me to be its own self, to help, to minister, to give, to show the beauty and the grace of love. And I'm saying yes to the God that gave me its very self. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that a lovely reminder? Next time you're hard on yourself, remember, God showed up by means of you to serve the world. The next time you're about to be hard on somebody else, remember, God gave the world this person to be its own presence in this world. They may be a little bit forgetful right now, but I'm sure as heaven is not going to remind them by blasting them of who they are. My friend, Moira, I think you're not being yourself today. That's the way to do it. With kindness, with care, real care. Holding up a little mirror. So whatever it is in your life that you're peed off about, knock it off. Really, it doesn't do any good at all, none whatsoever. It only keeps you further and deeper in that morass, in that swamp. Just remember, God so loved the world that God gave the world me to be its presence in three-dimensional planet Earth. Paul is flashing a lovely sun back there. Shows up as a beautiful sun, honestly, like a sunrise. Thank you, sir. That was a lovely treat, saying, look, the sun is always shining, no matter what. So let the sun shine in you. Let the sun shine in, face it with a grin. Frowners always lose, smilers always win, so let the sun shine. Face it with a grin, open up your hearts and let the... Oh my goodness! Are we done? Are we ready? Good. Now you're going to go out there into the world, you're going to have a great good weekend, you're going to let the sun shine out from you. And let God be God by means of you in this week. Focus on it and then check yourself at the end of the day how well you succeeded in that. Please do. And if you have to make some kind of adjustments, then tell yourself tomorrow, I'm going to be a greater son. I'm going to blind everybody. I'll be so bright and shiny. But only temporarily. You just don't know how amazing you all are, and you all are amazing. And it doesn't mean we don't get in each other's last nerve at times when we fall short of remembering who we are. You're on my last nerve now, so back off. It's funny when you think that God could even say that. But anyway, we're doing what we can do, and we're doing it better each day. That's what I am knowing. So upward, forward, and onward. This is going to be a year of great kindness. And I think that for this year, we can choose as our motto, kindness. Kindness in the way we think, kindness in the way we feel, kindness in the way we deal with each other. Kindness, would you agree to that? Do you think that might be a good thing to focus on this year? How kind we can be. Put yourself in competition with yourself as far as how kind you can be in any given day. Give yourself a mark out of 10 at the end of the day. Add them all up and see how you do in a week. That's fun. We used to love doing things like that as children. And it keeps us mindful that we've made up our mind to be kind.